All right, y'all. We have a leaky carburetor. It definitely leaks out of the accelerator pump housing, and beneath that you have the power valve housing, which I don't think you can see. So I bought a little rebuild kit for it, and we'll pull this thing off carefully and rebuild it and see how it goes. Okay, we got the carburetor off. It's on my makeshift stand on my crowded workbench, and we'll start the rebuild process. So we got it mostly apart, and luckily we did find some dirt, so I'll get that cleaned out as best as I can, change out a couple of the gaskets, and see what else we find. Okay, so we've cleaned it out pretty good. Luckily I called my pa, and he told me you better change that needle and seat, so I'm doing that now. I will put it all back together, fill it up with fuel, let it sit all night, and hopefully we'll have no leaks. Okay, so underneath there, right here, is where the power valve lives. We put a new one in, a new gasket, new accelerator pump and gasket, new needle and seat, and I cleaned out the Venturi boosters as best as I could. And we got fuel in the bowl. I opened the throttle up a bunch of times to get the accelerator pumps primed, and it was squirting out. I tried to clean up everything I could, and now we're just gonna let this thing sit all night. And I put a towel down that way. I did a white paper towel. That way if it does leak, it'll be super duper obvious. And hopefully in the morning time, I won't have any leaks. I'll go ahead and put the lid on, and then we'll check it in the morning. Okay, it's the next morning. I'm just kidding. I'm excited, and I keep coming back in here just to look at it to see if it leaked. I think the mama bear told me it's time to go inside. A new episode of Baby Yoda just came out, so I'll be checking that out. And you know, we're all friends here. I can admit this. I think after that, we're going to watch a Hallmark. But don't hold it against me. It's just the world I live in. Okay, now it is actually the next morning. And I saw Baby Yoda last night. It was a cliffhanger. Oh, no leaks. And I fell asleep in the Hallmark movie, but I think they get together in the end. So that's good. Oh, I don't know if it shows up on camera, but this is leaking. Of course, there's nothing in there, but that could have given me a false positive. But I think this is the longest this carburetor's gone without leaking in quite some time. So that's a good sign. I just got to get a new fuel filter from O'Reilly's, and then I think I can put it back in and maybe crank it up. I said I wouldn't modify this car, but dadgummit, I want to take this bracket off. It is just right in my way. While I had the carburetor off, I decided it'd be a good idea to just go ahead and check the intake bolts, and sure enough, all of them were less than 10 foot-pounds. Even though this is a cast iron intake, they still loosen up. And I know Richard was saying it in his last video that I hadn't mentioned it before, but here we are in this video, and I'm being redundant in mentioning it again. But yeah, always a good idea to torque down those intake manifold bolts when you get the chance. Okay, so I torqued down those intake manifold bolts to whatever the Haynes manual said, somewhere around 20 foot-pounds. The carburetor rebuilt, does not leak fuel, and go to crank it up, and it seems like it runs possibly even worse. So I messed around with the float. Here's the float I took out. It's a nitrofill, and I had a spare brass, so I put that in, and the level's lower. Still didn't make a difference. I took out one of the spark plugs, and the plug looked like someone had spray painted it black. So I called my pa up, and we were talking, and we were actually we were FaceTiming, and he was looking at it, and he's like, that plug looks fine. The center electrode still had like a sharpness to it. There was no deposits on it, and he said, question, how does the gap look on the points? And I said, I wouldn't have a clue, to be honest. So over FaceTime, he was able to show me how to adjust them. And then I went ahead and readjusted the gaps on all the spark plugs as well, and it started up like this. All right, yeah, you can go ahead. Very nice. And then after that, I noticed that and that was also after readjusting the timing. 6 degrees of initial is what the Haynes manual calls for, but I realized that the vacuum advance doesn't work anymore, and I'll show you that debacle now. All right, y'all, I have to document this because in all my years, I've never had any luck doing this sort of thing, and this time it worked. You can see, let me focus this, the broken off stud in the distributor, and I went ham on it yesterday with some pliers, and I rounded off the threads pretty good. So I let it soak all night with Seafoam Deep Creep, and then I got after it with this afternoon, I got after it with a heat gun, and then I put some ice on the stud, and by golly, it's actually starting to work itself loose. I'll check back in a moment. All right, here we are. You can, well, it was only the last 2 threads, but got it out, thank goodness. I've never had very much luck extracting broken bolts, so I guess since this is aluminum, it heats up a lot better, or it expands a lot more with heat. That definitely helped. The old vacuum advance, the diaphragm in here had ruptured and it wouldn't move, and unfortunately I had to cut it out to get it off. But I got a new one on order from O'Reilly's, and we'll get it here probably tomorrow. All right, it's the next day. We got the vacuum advance from O'Reilly's, and neat little thing is it comes with instructions for this distributor, since it's like, I think it's a C5AFN or something like this. You put a 3/32 Allen key in, and then you lightly seat it, and then you go out 4 full turns, and that's supposed to be the magic number. So we'll go ahead and slam this thing in. Since I'm such a visual dude, I sometimes have trouble knowing if the engine's about to stall or not. So it's not the end-all be-all tack for this car, but we got an old Sun tack. I'm going to mount it somewhere on the steering column. We'll get it figured out. And we're going to have a special guest star help me install the tachometer. So stay tuned. Or sun-tuned. I never knew I could wire so good, but here we are, about to give it a whirl. All right, that looks good enough. I guess I'll just leave it here. All right, so we're gonna go old school. We're gonna just attach it with a hose clamp, and I got some heat shrink. We're gonna put the heat shrink around this and heat it up. I had to straighten the hose clamp out a little bit, and I might need more than this, but we'll go ahead and use a heat gun and heat it up. And that's how it looks. Pretty good. We'll probably add a little bit more to it and see how that looks. All right, so I think we finally got it. Definitely not first try, but I should have enough heat shrink to take up the whole circumference of the steering column. So we'll go ahead and try to install it and see how it looks. All right, so we got it mounted. I put it on the left, which I can still see the oil pressure, which is very important. And I wanted to put it on the other side because I don't care about the amps as much as the oil pressure, but I don't want to bump the tack every time I try to start the car. So lesser of 2 evils. It's going to be on this side for now. I can always adjust it later. The only thing I did off camera, if you look at the tachometer mount, you might see a little bit of electrical tape on the mount. That way there's no metal on metal contact. And the special guest star should be here tomorrow, and we're going to wire this thing up together, or as they say in Bama, war it. And yeah, I guess that's it for now. Okay, quick plot twist. We're going to put the tachometer on the right side. I like it more there anyways, and it'll work. I've got the ground wire dangling. I got the power wire going to the slinky there. And I think tomorrow we'll run by the parts store and get the rest of the stuff to wire it up fully. Okay, so this is a little part I was waiting on from Napa. It's a fuse tap, so I can run the wire to this for the 12 volts with the key on. All right, so the special guest star / mobile mechanic is here. He's filming for me. Richard, do you charge by the mile?
I do, yeah.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble. He's visiting with me.
Little Debbie snacks.
There you go. So I was having trouble pushing the fuse in with the this little fuse tap. So Richard came up with the idea, and we know this may not be the right way, but it's how we're doing it. We soldered this little tap. We cut off half of it so it's less surface area to push into its holder, and we'll see if we can get this thing pushed in.
Rock on.
Rock on, Wayne. We got the tachometer fully hooked up. Richard, do you think you can just jump the solenoid for me?
Yeah, man. Here we go.
All right, hang on. I never did this. Prime it. It ought to work now.
Fire in the hole.
Go for it. Fire in the hole.
One more again.
One more again. There we go.
There we go.
Good deal, thank you.
Smooth like butter.
Heck yeah. Tachometer's lit up. We found out that it's accurate to plus or minus 600.
It's a wacko-meter, not a tachometer.
There you go. But hey, it seems like it's 600 high all the time, and I'm good enough at math, so it's a buy. We'll keep it. Okay, change to the change. I ended up getting the tack that I really wanted initially. We got it kind of Rube Goldberg'd up here, and we're about to ops check it. Wrap this video up. The family and I just took this car for about a 20-mile drive, and this thing is just running better and better. I think a lot of that's contributed to playing with the points. I don't know if I got them quite right, but it's better. I definitely had it screwed up for a little bit. So some of the issues have been self-induced. That's just how I roll. Messing with the points helped. Changing the vacuum advanced canister, that definitely helped. And the Haynes manual calls for 6 degrees of initial, and I bumped it to 9, and it really seems to like that a lot as well. One of the other things I've done, just getting to know the car, is learning how it actually shifts. Okay, for me the shifting in this car is a little bit weird. This is a C4 Cruise-O-Matic, and I would just put it into drive, the little dot here, and I didn't know this for a while, but that actually starts it out in second gear. So it kind of started out a little bit, shaky, and I thought it was some other issue, and then searching YouTube I found out that you're supposed to take off in green dot, and that starts you out in first and bumps you up to second and third. And actually I was talking to my dad about it, and he is the one that clued me into that this thing might be starting out in second. So that's been another game changer for being comfortable driving this car. And then the final cherry on top was getting that tachometer installed. Since I'm so visual, it just lets me see what the engine's doing, because I can't be trusted to hear it and understand it. But that'll wrap up this video. Super happy with how this thing's going along, and next I might look at the steering and suspension, but we'll catch you next time.